Yeah. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to today's Performance Audit and Risk Committee. Welcome to those in the chamber and those online. It's 9 o'clock, and I will declare the meeting open and firstly just call for any apologies. No, thank you. We'll move on. Agenda item number 3, are there any declarations of interest? And if not, no, thank you. We'll take that as well, and we'll move forward to agenda item number 4, confirmation of the public minutes of the Performance Audit and Risk Committee held on the 31st of March. Do I have any questions or comments on those? Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I do apologise for this, but it does seem to me to be a not insubstantial problem. On page 6 of the minutes or page 10 of the agenda, we have a description in these minutes of a series of motions, the first of which apparently lapses for lack of a seconder. Then there is a second motion properly moved and seconded as per standing orders, but nothing is done with it because it lapses according to the minutes due to a lack of vote. And then there's a third motion that was moved, but without a seconder, which means it actually can't be put. But the minutes record that it has been put and carried. Okay. So basically something has to be, either the minutes have misconstrued what actually happened, or this needs to be re-put or something of that nature, because
okay, I understand what you're saying, and I apologise. I reviewed the minutes and I thought they were an accurate reflection of what happened, but if not, so we have Ellie here as our governance officer to talk to us.
Thank you, Councillor Hopkins. So there is actually what happened on the day. If you're right, there was no seconder, and that technically isn't how it should be done. There should be a seconder before it's carried.
Yes.
Yeah, so that could be, if you would like to go back and redo that resolution, that's an option.
So probably my error for the way that I chaired the meeting, but I mean, what do you want to do with it, Councillor Hopkins?
Well, I mean, standing orders require, I mean, people could challenge it's not going to happen, but it could technically be challenged because.
Okay, so just what would you like to do with it? Because I'm conscious that we've got a lot on the agenda today.
Allison's just said that we can go back and re-put it. Whether we do that immediately or as part of the business of this meeting, I have to.
What would be your recommendation, Ellie? Sorry to put you on the spot. Paul?
Yeah, my advice would be just to address it now rather than, I think, delay it into the meeting. Just
all right.
Basically re-put the motion.
Let's re-put the motion then.
Well, hang on. Well, it was moved by Mel. If she wants to move it again, I'm happy to second it.
I'm happy to move it again. I guess just to go back to the procedural side of things, I think it's just making sure we slow down and give a chance, because if we're not speeding through the actual formalities, then it gives governance advisor a bit of a chance to sort of point out where we haven't quite got things nailed, because I think we need to be doing this in the meeting on the day where we can. But I think it's as easy as anything just to formalise it now, and it gets it done correctly. So yeah, happy to move it again.
Thank you. And again, my apologies. I am sometimes a little racy, so we'll slow things up, and I have a card to help me now too, which is going to be very handy going forward. So can I have somebody second that, please? Seconded by Councillor Hopkins. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. That's carried, and thank you for pointing that out. Are there any other comments or feedback on the minutes from the March meeting? No. Councillor Wright, Deputy Mayor Wright.
So just to confirm, I guess that new or what we just did then, because I don't actually recall abstaining from that vote either. So yeah, I just if those if that could be a vote for recorded, that would be great. Thank you.
Thank you. Could I ask then somebody move that we receive the minutes? Moved by councillor Hopkins, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ryan. All those in favour? Against? And again, thank you, that's carried. So we'll now move on to agenda item number 5, and that's the procurement and contract management policy. And we have Richard and Angela here to speak very briefly to that. I'll just introduce it by saying that we did hold a workshop, a very positive workshop. That there was some really good feedback provided. That feedback has been incorporated, and the policy is going today to council for approval. So it's coming to the PAR today, just for the PAR to receive it. Angela and Richard, is there anything you'd like to add? Oh, do you want to speak at all to it, Joe?
I was just going to introduce the paper, but you did such a stunning job, Simon. Just to say that consideration of the paper and the feedback which was received through the workshop. So appreciate the robust conversation that took place. And really, it's just focusing on that this paper achieves a robust procurement governance and transparency, that it enables efficiency and practical delivery, supporting local economic benefit where appropriate, and ensuring that council remains commercially disciplined and risk aware in its procurement practices. So such a great job, Angela. Thank you.
Thank you. And I'll now open up for comment. Franz.
I need to reorganise this. I just want to add to what Ms O'Neill has just said. Just recall the very first discussion we had about this paper, and I believe Ms Murray went beyond the call of duty, put it all in a Word format, put all the comments in there, left, right and centre. So when this came through last week, I went through it and done a great job incorporating all those comments, every one of them. So I just want to say a very well done and thank you for going through this process. Thank you.
Thank you, and I concur. It was a really valuable process. Councillor Hopkins.
Mr. Chair, there's a couple of references. I raised this matter, I think, during the workshop. On page 22 and 23 of the agenda, we have this statement, be fair to all suppliers on page 22. We will treat all suppliers fairly through transparent, reasonable and impartial procurement processes. Now, there has been a sentence added, we will seek opportunities to involve local and New Zealand businesses, but I'm not sure that sentence in and of itself adequately addresses the issue of the conflict between the preference the procurement policy proposes to give to New Zealand and to find local companies. And the same on the next page, there's a reference to open and fair competition under 421. And arguably, if some suppliers are receiving a preferential treatment, that cannot be the case. So I'm still a bit concerned that disgruntled contractor tenderers or suppliers might challenge us on the basis that those statements are contradicted by other aspects of the policy.
Okay. Look, the intent is not for us to relitigate the policy here today. No, let me finish, please. The policy is for us to receive, and it's going to be presented to council at the meeting later in the day. My only feedback, and I welcome any from Angela, Richard or Joe, is that any preferential treatment is very, very clearly articulated at the outset. So I wouldn't argue it was preferential treatment. I would argue that it was weightings applied for certain factors, and so it was still an open and fair process. But I'll invite Richard or Angela to speak to that on the basis that I really want to make sure that this is just for receiving here today, and that discussion can happen in the wider council meeting later.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Neal, and thank you, Councillor Hopkins. So the original term was that council would not discriminate, but we understood that we needed to adjust the language there, and we've selected fair because the rules are clear and transparent. It's very difficult to develop a policy that enables council to achieve its ambition, which is keeping ratepayers' money in the district, This is what we've arrived at with the help of the council through the workshops, is that we've come up with this structured process between X dollars and X dollars where we will make clear the rules and give officers an opportunity to keep that money in the district if it's within certain parameters. And we've wired those parameters down as tightly as we can, but it still achieves the outcome, and that's the ambition.
Is that okay, councillor?
Yeah, I can live with that. I think it still could be made clearer, but that's fine. There is one other issue, Mr. Chair, if I may, on page 29 of our agenda. Under approval required, the first headline or the first box in that chart there says spend over 1.5 M must be approved in principle by elected members. If you go down to successful supplier contract award a little bit lower in that box, it says all contracts with a value over 1.5 M must be approved by council. And in my view, that is what the first of those boxes should say as well. It's not a matter of what spends being approved in principle. We have a policy at the moment that spends over 1.5 are approved.
And
by council.
you and I went through this
Yes.
in detail via
Yes.
email and with Richard and Angela. And the two boxes, one is for the procurement initiation,
Yeah.
and one is for the successful contract. And you were absolutely right at the time. And I think that this has captured it accurately, that the procurement must be approved in principle, but the actual contract must be approved in particular. They're two different things. We went through this in detail together. Okay, thank you. Is there any further question or comment? Sorry, Deputy Mayor Ryan.
Thank you. I guess just a question for PAR, or perhaps for the policy itself. Given like the increased flexibility in the framework, is it going to be appropriate or possible for us to receive any reporting, I guess, on exemptions and non-standard procurement, just for, I guess, some oversight?
Absolutely, it would be my expectation that we continue to receive the exceptions and non-standard approval reporting as we have to date. Thank you. If there's no further questions, could I ask somebody to move that we receive the procurement policy? Moved by Franz, seconded by Sven. All those in favour?
Right.
And against? Thank you, that's carried. And thank you, Richard and Angela. The council will see you later in the day. If we now could move on, please, to agenda item 5.2, and this is an update in Oamaru Airport Health and Safety update, and I invite Matt Sisson to present. Thank you, Matt.
Thank you. So this is the first report of its kind since the appointment of the airport manager, and this report is an important reminder that health and safety at the Oamaru Airport is not simply an operational issue, it is a critical governance responsibility for council. Given the nature of the airport environment, the potential consequences of failure are significant, and council needs confidence that the appropriate systems, controls and reporting and oversight are in place to effectively manage that risk. The key focus for today is less about compliance in isolation and more about whether we are satisfied that the airport's health and safety culture, operational discipline and risk management practices are sufficiently robust for the level of risk associated with the activity, and that a continuous improvement approach in this area is being taken. This is an area where governance vigilance matters, because small gaps in systems or oversight can have very serious consequences in an aviation environment, as was recently reported in Wanganui. With that, I'll hand over to Matt to speak to the report.
Thank you. Yeah, look, as you're probably aware, I've been in the role since August last year. So what I've done is taken a snapshot of the past 12 months and broken down what reports we have had over the time, and sort of driven down to not, I'm not targeting incidences, but I'm targeting what the the risk is at the airport. And as you can see from this report, we have a bit of a culture problem, a bit of a reporting problem. And some asset condition issues as well, but you know, as you can see by the numbers, they're pretty low. But 69% of what happens out at the airport is attributed to third-party operators. So that's basically not Waitaki District Council and the airport. And 62% in further breakdown, which draws out that the complacency culture and attitudes towards safety at the aerodrome is the main risk we have out at the airport at present. So we are working hard, not just ourselves, but with CAA and the users out at the airport to build a culture of reporting. It is slowly getting better, but you know, it still comes high on our risks. Not so bad at reporting now. It's about now getting them to report the right things and not report the right things that are happening out there. So I'm happy to take questions. I think
Thank you, Matt. Thank you again for pulling this report together. I note that one of the significant incidents that you refer to in the report happened prior to the reporting period, but only got captured in the reporting period because it was a February 25 incident that came through. Is that correct?
Yeah. So the incident it happened in February 2025. I obviously started this report is prior to that, but the discovery and the eventual reporting happened in this report, this time period. Yeah.
Look, I'm sure everybody's read it, and I'm sure there's lots of questions and concerns and feedback for you. So I'll open up the floor now, Mayor Taverner.
First of all, thank you for this. I really appreciate just having a bit of view over all this, because I think it's really important and it's a concern. Just on your increasing monitoring, oversight and targeted education engagement. So I see you're doing a real concerted effort. Are you seeing a shift in some of the behaviour or attitude at this stage?
Yeah, it's very targeted, the education we're doing. Find the right people and educate them. So the people we are talking to are engaging, but as I said, we had a user group meeting last week, and it was I brought up that yes, the report numbers are increasing, but it's about reporting the right things as well. It's not just little things we need to know about, it's the big things as well, and vice versa. The little things eventually build up to a big thing. So again, it's just ongoing, that education. CAA are helping with that. They're speaking to it at our user group meetings and stuff as well. And it's in the wider airport group, we're seeking some help and advice on it as well.
And I concur with the mayor. It's pretty scary, some of this, and the denial of incidents is also, I find, pretty confronting. Deputy Mayor Ryan, and then Dan.
Thank you. Through the chair, I just want to, I have a couple of questions, if I can ask them separately, maybe. Yeah, cool. We've been told in the past, I guess when things are reported to the CAA, they're automatically tagged to the Oamaru Airport, whether or not they happened at the airport. Is that the case for these stats, or are these all stats that have occurred at the airport?
This is out of our safety management system. I just see there have reported some incidences to CAA, but this is wholly our data from our airport.
And then I guess the report references users and third-party operators throughout, but I guess are these incidents spread across multiple users, or are they sort of recurring operators involved?
Look, the reporting system is open to everyone, and we do get some good feedback from most operators. It is multiple parties, but it is heavily weighted one way. It's about educating everyone. Like, it's been an airfield that's sort of self-managed for quite a while with some external guidance of council. So it's about educating you know, the Aero Club, Heli Ventures, NZAA as a whole. But you know, there is a percentage ratio, yes. How much the airport, the use is used to the airport, yeah.
Thank you, councillor Lewis. Oh, sorry, you have one more. Sorry, Rebecca. I thought that was two.
Last question. The health and safety group and the users group, are they as effective as they could be? Are there any areas for improvement there? I guess we had the Aero Club come to a public meeting recently and suggested maybe like they hadn't been as engaged in, I think maybe users group rather than health and safety. But like, are there any other opportunities there to be engaging with the users?
Look, the user group and safety group is well engaged. But that's not everyone at the airport, you know, that's just sort of representation from certain parties at the airport. So this last user group was the first one I had of a bulk of the actual common users at the airport. So the invite list was quite large, and rather than just very targeted. So we're creating the opportunities for them to attend and engage. I can only lead a horse to water so much, but we are seeing better engagement when we now I've opened it up, so we have South Canterbury Aero Club from Timaru come down. So we've got a wider catchment now. Waimate Aerodrome and the users there. So it's about instead of just targeting one little point now, it's about bringing in as many people as we can. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you, and through the chair, thanks, Matt, for your work on this. It makes you wonder how many of these incidences were being unreported prior to this. You know, when you actually look back, it's the number that you're actually picking up on and are being reported now is scary in some respects, but good to actually have a proper handle on what's happening out there. The wildlife issues seem to be tracking down, which is a positive. I just got a question with regards to the CAA side of things. Liability-wise for us as an airport operator, if these are being flagged, are we likely to see more intervention from the CAA?
So as I've said in my report there is a little bit of intervention, and CAA brought it up at the last user group meeting that they will be monitoring common airports for common users and comparing the two. You know, there seems to be a trend that there's high reports at other airports, but not here. If I just take your attention to the numbers in my chart there, you'll notice the first quarter that I reported on was quite low, second was high, third was low again, fourth was high. Reason being the first quarter, I wasn't actually employed at that point. Third quarter, I was actually away at Christmas, so you know the eyes weren't there. So what has helped is having eyes there seeing these things. You know, there are technology we could get later on to help with this as well, but definitely if you're not there, not as much gets reported. Yeah, so it is concerning myself, yeah.
Supplementary through the chair, if I may. Just given the number of movements that are going through, is there likely to be a cap placed on there? Is CAA likely to say at some point this can't continue the way it is?
No, CA, we are still awaiting the aeronautical study. That is with CAA and their peer review at the moment. I can't speak to what will come out of that, but generally CAA won't put a cap on it, but it'll basically challenge you how you're handling the risk of the operations at the airport. That has been why we are now doing an aeronautical study, because it's what risk do we have to handle. CAA are taking along with us a very educational approach at the moment. You know, at the end of the day, we want these young pilots to get home safely. That's ultimately what it's about at the end of the day. You know, there has been some incidences lately worldwide. One just recently in Australia, and one recently in the North Island, which we will be quite interested in the outcomes of those investigations. One of them has similarities to the three incidences that have been, well, we have discovered. I must note that those were actually reported to CAA by the operator, but not to us, and that's the concerning part. You know, we need to know about things straight away because there could be some contributing factors that we have to act on and triage very quickly to make sure that we aren't inducing a risk or a hazard into their operations as well. And that, at the end of the day, accidents will happen at a training organisation, which I've stated. That's a risk profile we accept, and we put mitigations in place to try and reduce that. But if we don't know things are happening, we can't mitigate those risks, and that's the concerning part of my report.
Thank you, Matt. Councillor Hopkins, did you have a comment?
Your report, Matt, identifies these 9 incidents or accidents that occurred in the February-April 2026 period. And you define an incident or an accident as an occurrence that has resulted in damage to property or injury or death to a person. But then you highlight 3 particular episodes: the February 25 episode where the heavy hard landing damages the nose wheel and the propeller strikes the runway surface, and there are 2 in 2022. So these 9 incidents, how many of them involved damage to property or injury or death to a person? I note that only 1 has been reported to the CAA.
Yeah, so damage to property, like as with the 2 people who publicly submitted recently about damage to propellers and stuff like that. So, you know, it could be anything from we've had tires, a tire burst, so it's damage to property, and you know, if there's subsequent damage to a runway. For the issue of like the stones in the taxiing area, you know, it's damaging their prop. So it's damaging something that's, you know, a piece of property or something like that. So what I've tried to do, instead of creating 5 or 6 different classes for this report, I sort of bunched them together to say, hey, there's an incident or an accident, here's a wildlife, and this is a hazard identification. Just sort of simplified it a bit. So these can be extrapolated out into, you know, it's not all doom and gloom. There wasn't 9 crashes out at the airport in that quarter, but there was 9 incidences of some form of damage to property or person or something like that.
Thank you. So
Would it be fair though to assume that the focus you've placed on the February 2025 incident and the 2 in 2022 would signify that they are of a gravity and severity or seriousness that exceeds some of the other incidents / accidents you've included here?
Yes, I would. The incident that I reported to CAA that you're pointing to actually wasn't so much about the accident itself. It was the failure to report it to the council or to the airport. The damage to the runway was picked up in March 2025. Right? Emails were sent out to all users. There was denial, not denial. No one claimed responsibility for the damage. There was even an option given up to say, oh, it could have been a tail dragger that damaged the runway. It turned out that it was that party's aircraft that damaged the runway. So, as I say, we take the risk on. There are going to be issues. I have said to people, I expect there to be incidences and accidents at the airport. What is the dangerous point of this is that it was not reported to and there had to be quite a lot of pressure put on the organisation involved to finally report it. So my report to CAA was not about the accident, it was about the failure to report to the airport that it took 12 months to report it to us.
Thank you. Look, I'm really conscious of the time, and we are going to have to wrap this up in a minute. But I mean, thank you so much for pulling this together. It's the first time that the PAR's had the opportunity to see the results of the hard work that you're doing. And my final question would be, I appreciate, as you said, with the number of movements that we have out there, and with the fact that it's a training school, we are going to have a bit of damage here and there, and we are going to, and we do need to consider with that amount of movements whether the surface is up to scratch and where we're going. But in your opinion, and you're the closest one to this, do you think, are you comfortable that we're making progress with the culture? And do you think there is anything more that either the PAR or the council need to be doing to help you, Matt?
I think we're making slow progress. Changing culture at aerodrome situation takes a long time, but I think we are slowly making progress. Don't worry, I will put my hand up if I need help, definitely. But I think opening up and being transparent about what's there is the big thing. That will gain help. Not only we're trying to educate the users, we're educating the PAR committee as well on what's there. So at this stage, I think we're slowly making progress, and with the help of CAA, we should get this eventually.
Thank you. If there, and we are always here as well if you need us to escalate things, but we certainly appreciate you bringing this to us today. If there's no further questions, could I ask someone move that we receive the report? Moved by Councillor Lewis, seconded by Deputy Mayor Ryan. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. That's carried, and thank you again, Matt. We'll now move on to agenda item 5.3, and that's the health and safety update. And this time I will not forget to allow. Oh, it's not going to introduce it because she's walked out the door. Paul, you will. I'll ask Paul to introduce the paper, please.
Yeah, I'm just going to make a couple of comments before I pass this over. Really looking at the incidents and just noting in particular the occupational violence and aggression, and working near or with the public. I think it's probably both areas that are quite dramatically underreported in terms of, I suppose, interactions where people, staff members or even elected members, feel unsafe in relation to just comments or interactions with the public. You're certainly getting a lot of informal reports about people, staff members being accosted, in the supermarket or at school. They're not reported, they're not captured at the moment, which is something that I think we'll need to work on with our new health and safety advisor to understand the nature of the issue, the extent of it, and whether there are further measures we can be taking to help staff deal with that. And I think we need to make that sort of same comment about elected members, that you may not be employees, but you are part of the organisation, and I think we have a strong health and safety obligation to you. And so it's, please feel free to come forward and talk to us about anything that happens where you have felt unsafe, so that again, that we can either try and help you mitigate situations, provide you with some training to help deal with it, or generally just talk about it to make sure that we're aware of if there are trends and patterns happening, that we can do something about it. So really just wanted to talk about that before I pass over to Teresa to talk about the report in particular.
Thank you, Paul. And I'm really pleased to see this report coming back through to the PAR again. It did happen in the last training, and then it sort of disappeared for a bit. And so I'm really rapt to set back on again. It's a really important risk for us to be aware of and to help manage where we can. And so, Teresa, I'll ask you to please speak to it.
Thank you. So yes, Paul introduced probably the main focus that we have in our health and safety area, apart from the usual health and safety issues, which is around the increase in incidents that we're starting to see. You'll see that in the there are critical risk areas that we have at council, and of the critical risk areas that we've got, I'll just quickly run through the incidents that were noted. Around fire and emergency evacuation, we just had concerns raised around the evacuation capability at a public facility, and one concern raised around a secondary exit for a fire cell in Thames Street. The one with the fire cell we've discussed with the staff, and they understand what that egress looks like now. And around the public facility, that's around having minimal staffing at the public facility and what happens if an evacuation occurs. So we're working with the team around that. The occupational violence and aggression, there were 3 incidents involving a staff member photographed, which was uploaded on social media, and there were subsequent jeering incidents after that. There was also an incident with our elected members, with Mayor Tavendale and Councillor Downing in Mayor Tavendale's office. And so that's what those incidents are reflecting on. Water-related risks, an ever-present risk here. 19 incidents. I thought I'd group them into some themes around those incidents. Pool collision incidents, 12 near misses or incidents involving pool walls and edges. So that's bumping heads, those sorts of things. 4 near misses or incidents involving slip, trip and fall hazards. And working near or with the public, 1 incident involving aggressive behaviour. Sorry, I talked about that in the other one, but that should be working with or near the public. So yes, they're the critical risk areas. And generally, are there any questions on that before I go to the general update?
So I think, I mean, thank you, and thank you for speaking to it so well. I kind of look at these risks as 2 types. So the fire risks, that's something that's relatively mechanical or procedural, and we can fix that up and make sure that it doesn't happen again. The risks that really worry me are the ones such as the photographing of it, like the unmanageable risks. There's very little that we can do to stop that from happening. But so my question is, are you comfortable or confident that we've got in place the support that staff members or elected members need to be able to deal with what's happened?
Yeah, and I would say that's an area that we are going to be improving. So in the general update, the last bullet point talks on developing and embedding de-escalation procedures, safe work design and lockdown protocols. So there will be, as well as policies, there'll be a capability uplift that we have to go through as a council, both elected members and staff, as we work through what that looks like.
Thank you. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, thank you for this. Couple of questions. The 3 incidents involving the staff member, they were the same staff member. Were dogs involved? Okay. Out of curiosity also, this incident you described with the closed door meeting in the mayor's office, how was that dealt with?
I'm going to invite the mayor to speak to that.
And there's one probably clarification I'd like to make on it. It wasn't technically a closed door meeting. So, and this is something that we sort of need to work through. When we have people that come to want to meet with me, I try to be open door and meet with whoever I can. That's where my baseline is, because I think it's important. That being said, there's a few things that probably raise a few red flags, which is things like when they won't tell staff members what the meeting's about, which would be really nice because it gives me a chance to actually be a bit prepared. So there's been the odd meeting I've had which have probably rung a few alarm bells. So the one in question was one of them, where there just was a few things that made it seem like it was going to be quite an aggressive space. So we talked a bit about that beforehand. So it was leaving the door open, it was having Councillor Downing with me, so thank you, Councillor Downing. And making sure people were aware. There was probably some risk in it, in the fact that it was quite an aggressive meeting, and I think we sort of tried to calm it and listen as much as we could and take the messaging you can from the meeting, but you can't fix everything, and some things are probably more police issues than council issues too. So when it comes to a stage where you can't give the person what they want, and they can't drop that, you need to ask them to leave. But I guess the issue being in my second floor office is that just expels them straight out into the middle of the building, and a whole lot of a whole lot of unexpected or unassuming staffers that are in the mix there, and how we get people out safely. So there's a bit of a discussion on, is that the right place for those that are raising red flags to hold those meetings? What do we do if something does happen? Because at the end of the day, whether it's myself, whether it's staff members out being photographed, we want everyone to go home safe. So we're trying to make sure we find safe ways to carry out our job and do it well, but not put ourselves at risk.
So
Hang on. Is this a supplementary question or?
it's just, was did the aggressive behaviour require the person to be physically removed or in some way pacified? I mean, how did this matter resolve itself?
It was majority well-raised voices, and I think the raised voices and leaving the door open meant that there was some staff at the door by the time I was asking to leave, and I'll pass it on to Teresa, who took it from there.
Coincidentally, I could hear the audible raised voices, and I hovered ready, and Mayor Tavendale was very firm and I think how he handled it extremely well, and the person left her office basically in a bit of a state. So I followed him down the stairwell and ensured that he could exit the building, because of course he didn't quite know where to exit out of that stairwell. So I escorted him off the premises and made sure he was across the road and out of sight.
So maybe one of the takeaways that I'm sure you're working on is that perhaps meetings might not be best to happen in the mayor's office, but downstairs in another. I mean, there's lots of things to work through. I think Franz, I know you have a question, but the concern for me is that we're in an environment right now where we have a community that are increasingly upset, and so the potential for these things to happen is probably even greater over the course of the next 3 to 6 months, unfortunately. And I just really want to make sure that you have the resources or the time that you need to be able to relatively quickly develop some support mechanisms and some coping strategies and some safety policies that minimize the risk of we can't stop these things from happening, but how do we make them as safe as possible and minimize the likelihood of them as much as possible?
Thank you. So yeah, I'll take that on, which is that we'll make that a priority, and that we can get the assistance if required to ensure that happens
know
quickly.
that you can come back to the power at any time if you don't feel like you're getting that. Come back to me at any point.
Okay.
Franz?
Yes, thanks. A quick comment on what's being discussed right now. I think rule number 1 is never go into a meeting alone unless you know the person. So, and good thing Sven was there, so that's good. I got a question about the incidents at the pool. And believe it or not, I was young once and done some crazy things in the pool. And that actually, because initially, if you look at it, knee-jerk reactions go, wow, this is bad. We got 19 incidents, but I'm quite happy on an email. You don't have to explain it all here, but I'd like to see that expanded a bit, as in, are these incidents that are caused by we need to do more about anti-slip, or is this a couple of youngsters basically running along the pool and falling in there and pronto you've got an incident? Have we got an elderly person that misstepped on the stairs, that sort of thing? So I'd just like to have a bit more background on what these incidents actually are.
Teresa, you want to speak to that or put it in it?
Just very quickly, I can recall there were 2 actual slip areas, which they're in a pool area, so there's always an element of slip, and all the rest were playing and that sort of thing, and diving in on someone and those sorts of things.
Rebecca.
Thank you. I was just wondering for future reports, would it be possible to get a bit of a comparison, just to be looking at, I guess, if there are any trends emerging? Obviously, we want to be minimising all risks, but just to maybe be helpful.
Yes, I'll do that for the next report.
Thank you. And Ben.
Similar question in a way, I suppose. Historically, there was a bit of a rise in the similar sort of public anger ones at the pool as well. Have we seen that abate? Because it does look like it's more the slip, trips and falls type incidents now. The sort of working with the public ones at the pool, there's a bit of some angry people didn't want to be following the rules or whatever. I don't know the details exactly, but there was a bit of that kind of thing.
I mean, apologies because I'm, new into this area, but when I do that trend work, I'll see.
Thank you. Look, thanks again. Sorry, Councillor Hopkins.
Moving on to general update. I thought we had a safety and wellbeing advisor. I note you saying that one has joined us on the 28th of April. Was any thought given to sharing this function with other councils, or is this person solely devoted to the Waitaki District Council's health and safety?
This person is devoted solely to Waitaki District Council, although obviously there's lots of things happening at the moment. Who knows if that changes in the future, but
it's a replacement of an important function in the council. So, and I don't know that as a PAR we need to go to that operational level of kind of involvement.
Well, we were told some time ago, I think while you were chair of this committee, that one of the things we were looking at was sharing the health and safety function with some other local organisations and groups. And I would be curious to know how many councils of our size have a standalone health and safety advisor, when possibly this is a function that could be shared amongst a group of councils, thus reducing the cost for all of them.
Well, I will take it as a personal action to research that and report it back. So look, thank you again for bringing this paper to us. It's really good to have it back on the PAR agenda, and I'm very appreciative of that. I've voiced my concern, as have others, around the staff risks and the fact that they're so difficult to manage, and we really want to see and support you as much as we can, being able to provide the necessary support and backup for those. And so thank you very much for bringing along. If there's no further questions, could I ask somebody to move that we receive the report, please? Moved by Sven, seconded by France. Thank you. All those in favour? Against? And that's carried. Thank you again, Teresa, and thank you, Paul, for introducing it. We'll move on now to agenda item 5.4, financial report for Q3 to March 2026. And I will ask Paul if he'd like to speak to that, or Alex or Amanda.
Yeah, before I hand over to Amanda, so I know I don't usually introduce these reports, but given the current circumstances, I thought I'd take the opportunity to do an overview of this report before handing over to Amanda, because this report is a really important part of your financial controls that you have over this authority and what we spend. And I'm really conscious that some of the narrative out there at the moment is that, we're in the position of potentially increasing rates significantly because of lack of financial control and financial management and accountability. And to be clear, this is not true, and the facts speak for themselves as set out in this report. And as noted in the previous financial updates to PAR, our total operating costs for the 30th of June year to date are under budget.
despite the cost pressures that we're operating under. And for the first 9 months of the financial year to the 31st of March, overall, we've been operating, we have an operating deficit for the period compared with a budgeted surplus. So we are down on budget by 9.63 million. But this is largely attributed to revenue, not to lack of control of operating costs. And almost all of that is because of external grants and subsidies that were budgeted at 10.23 million not coming in the time period that we expected. That doesn't mean they're not coming. It's just in the budgeted period that they haven't come in, or we don't expect all of them in. So this is, primarily due to the timing of funding support for major projects that have not yet been received. And when we went into these projects, the risks were assessed and discussed by council, and one in particular, our largest capital project, the council, not this council, the previous council agreed to proceed, having done a risk assessment, knowing that not all the funding was in place at that time. And it did this in an environment of escalating costs, recognising that there was a risk that if it didn't proceed, that project might become unaffordable, or the scale of it and the facilities provided might have to be cut back. But in terms of overall operating expenditure at 64.81 million, it's under budget by over 1 million overall. So our budget this year is off, not because we've spent too much, but because the income for major projects we're expecting from the funders has not yet been given to us. I just wanted to mention a bit about budget controls as well. So in 2021, before I arrived, the council set an LTP, and in it increased funding and staffing. And this was a second LTP in which it increased staffing. So it had done so in the 2018 LTP as well, increased staffing significantly. And it did this recognising the additional responsibilities councils were being given by government and the growing programme of work. And that programme of work, since 2018 is now 5 times bigger than what it was. And so significant additional costs. In the 2021 LTP, the council outlined the challenge of an increasing work programme and increasing costs and increasing burdens placed on it. And this council stated that going forward, rates rises were going to be much higher than they had been to provide for a much bigger work programme and those additional burdens. It stated that in 2021, and it stated it in every annual plan and every LTP since then that the inflation is increasing far more for councils than it is for us in our household budgets. And that we were getting additional burdens. I also referred to this in my pre-election report. I said the next council has a tough job of balancing spending and funding. With rising costs for things like infrastructure, services, insurance and borrowing, it's hard to raise rates or charges without making it harder for families. So this hasn't come out of nowhere. It is unwelcome news in terms of where we're at with the financial position, but it hasn't come out of nowhere. It's been signalled for 5 years. Externally driven cost increases have been signalled in every LTP and annual plan for the past 5 years. And I just wanted to mention about the controls we put in place in what is this really difficult financial environment. So we've been looking at how we make ourselves much more efficient and effective. And the transformation programme, whilst it hasn't delivered all of the efficiencies yet, it has delivered a lot of efficiencies. We are delivering a lot bigger programme than we were with less staff. And some of the efficiencies we've put in place are unwelcome sometimes. When we've looked to consolidate our customer service offering to reduce the cost of that, it's not always welcomed by our community, but we have been active in doing that. But I looked at the increased programme of work and a really volatile financial environment we're in and considered how we make sure we have the controls in place. And so one of the things I did was I created a new position, a Chief Financial Officer. This was a role that was previously incorporated into another role. And I thought that actually, in the environment we're going into, we need to have stronger controls and someone who's dedicated to helping us manage through this difficult environment. By the way, I didn't increase staff numbers. I reduced the number of GMs to do that so that we could create that position to bring that specific focus. But we've also put in other financial controls. So, the monthly reports to PAR are part of that. So that you can have an overview of the budget always. And I personally feel that those are very clear in explaining the financial position. The exec team regularly reviews the finances and takes corrective action where appropriate. The CFO meets with me on a monthly basis to discuss the financial position, and we agree actions coming out of that. And managers are held accountable for their budgets, both by the directors and by the finance team. So we've kept budgets low. absorbing inflation as well as looking for efficiencies. And the operating budget for this financial year is 3 million lower than last year, despite the inflation. And we've done that without cutting services. The service standards have remained the same, or in fact, in customer service, we're actually improving the standards. But I hope this gives a better picture of where we're at and the costs we can control, we are controlling. The proposed rates rises have not come about because we're blowing budgets or being loose with public money. We're not proposing to increase rates because of cost blowouts. It is simply to pay for the same level of costs we actually incurred 2 years ago. So we're controlling the costs we can control, and the challenge for the council is the things that we can't control, that are similar in our household budgets: electricity, insurance, contractor costs, but also the additional things and the additional higher standards that government is imposing on us. I hope that gives a bit of context to the controls we're putting in place and the operating environment we've been working in. The conversation this council, and previous councils have been trying to have with our community about the difficult environment we're working in.
Thank you. I have lots to say to that, but firstly, I'll invite Amanda to maybe speak to the.
I don't know where to start after that. Yeah, so this is the report up to 31 March, so the first 9 months of the year. It is a little bit later given that we have 6 monthly meetings now. And yes, Alex has outlined the key results there. The main one being that we're behind budget and the grants revenue. I've got a lot of detail here about the reasons for that, quite specifics. It's all around our 3 main projects that we have ongoing and will probably spend balance date: the Kakanui Bridge, the Network Waitaki Event Centre, and Forester Gallery. Our budget is not overly complex. When we set it, we divide it by 12 a lot of the time, or we know that a project is going to take place in that 6 months of the year or that 9 months of the year. And sometimes those projects might move by a couple of months. And so when we're comparing budget throughout the year, it's not entirely accurate. So I have more of a financial picture for the whole at a project level, where those 3 projects are at in terms of funding, which I can provide if you require. And I guess the main point to note, as the Chief Executive has also pointed out, that our expenditure is under budget currently by about $1 million. A lot of that is in the contractor costs. I've got a detailed breakdown of those other expenses there, but just pointing out that other expenses is lower than last year and it is lower than budget, despite inflationary increases. And personnel costs, you can see I've forecast the 12 months expected result for 30 June, expecting it to be slightly higher than budget due to, there's a report that went to part in 2 meetings ago. There's a lot of capital work. We're aware that there's capital programs being deferred into next year. That staff time should have been capitalised to those projects. Where that doesn't happen, where the project hasn't happened yet, timing wise, we cannot capitalise that staff time to it yet. And then depreciation is over budget due to the significant revaluations at 30 June last year. But I guess in terms of the overall picture, if we took out the grants revenue that we are expecting to receive for those big one-off projects, if they were never there in the first place, that would be around, you would take off around 23 million out of the budget. And so that 95 that we'd budgeted for total income would become circa 70 million of revenue that we were expecting this year against expenditure of 87. And noting that that expenditure budget of 87 is against the actual 12-month result last year of 94 million total expenses. So it's lower. So if you had that amount of revenue without those 3 capital projects, we would have been loss making 15 to 20 million expected right from the start of this financial year. So yeah, it's basically showing that a lot of our income is to go towards capital projects these last three
All right, I'm going to
couple of years.
I'm conscious of the time we need
And
to.
that goes towards the balance sheet. And in terms of the balance sheet, we're all aware there's about $15 million worth of capex that is deferred to the next year. So that's the main significant change in that, and that we can discuss that further in the Treasury report as well.
Okay, so you made a point at the start, Amanda, that we're receiving this Q3 report in March, and we've moved to a 6-weekly cycle for council meetings, and so PAR meetings sit in with that. I have to confess I'm struggling a bit with getting the financial reporting so late, and so I'm wanting to maybe have a look at how we could potentially either increase the PAR frequency to monthly or do something along the ways. And I'm just wondering whether there's any thoughts or feedback on that, just as an administrative thing at the start. Councillor McKay.
No, I agree. It's been something I've given a lot of thought to, and I think given what's happening out there and where we're sitting right at the minute, I think we should be monthly, and I'd actually like to put a recommendation from this PAR committee to be considered to go to the council to be considered anyway to where we should be. So on that basis, I've got two that come to mind. I'd like to move that PAR meets monthly to coincide with the monthly financial position of the WDC after the monthly accounts payable are paid. That's the first part. And secondly, that a snapshot of the WDC's current account financial position and total debt are revealed at the beginning of each WDC council meeting after any declarations of interest in the agenda are passed.
Thank you. Do I have somebody prepared to second that? Seconded by Sven. I'll open that up for discussion.
Just for clarity, can you read the first one again, because it didn't quite make sense.
That PAR meets monthly to coincide with the monthly financial position of the WDC after the monthly accounts payable are paid.
So it's just formalising the timing of when it would occur.
Yeah. We either have it coinciding with or meeting after I don't think you can have both, to be honest.
Well, let's just say after.
Yeah.
Sven?
I think it was to recommend.
Yes. Yeah.
Sorry,
Recommend.
it hasn't been discussed widely. So we need to give everyone a chance to do that. So that's what I was seconding.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And are we looking at removing the to coincide? Or are we comfortable with that? Comfortable with that?
Yeah.
Excellent. So if that's the case, can I put that to a vote? Sorry, Mayor Tavendale.
So we need to look when this comes to council, because obviously we've got a council meeting next. I think that's too early, because what I do think we need to unpack from that is purely the diary space and trying to make sure that this is viable, because when we do bring this to council to be discussed, which I'm getting the reasoning behind it, just understanding what we're bumping, because obviously in the work program we've got moving forward in the simplifying local government space, we're really struggling to find places in the diary, so things are going to have to come out as a result, but I recognise the importance of it.
Thank you. And so there will obviously be some logistical work to do behind the scenes, but I take from this that everybody's comfortable with a PAR meeting monthly in some way, shape or form to be able to look at what the financials were and then present back.
Like it says, I'm happy. I think it's really important we talk about it as a council. So this is the first time that most councillors have seen this in front of them. And so, yeah, it's good for us to understand how viable that is to change at this point of the year to fit people's diaries and what we've got moving forward. But yeah.
Thank you. France?
Just on the wording itself, struggling a bit with it. Shouldn't that read PAR committee meets monthly to coincide with the monthly financial position reporting? Because I don't see how the committee can coincide with the financial position. Shouldn't that be reporting in there?
We can change it to reporting. Okay, so on that basis, are we comfortable moving forward and having it spoken to at council? Thank you. Do we need to put that to the vote? Yeah. So could I put vote all those in favour of this recommendation going to council? Against? Thank you, that's carried. And sorry, that was a bit of an administrative sideline. Look, Amanda, Alex, thank you for bringing the report to the table. I'm going to open it up to the floor for discussion and questions, but
Point of order, I think there was a second part to that motion.
pardon me?
I believe there was a second part to that motion that councillor McCone had.
I'm sorry. Sorry, second part. The second part is that a snapshot of Waitaki District Council's current account, financial position and total debt are revealed at the beginning of each Waitaki District Council meeting after any declarations of interest in the agenda. So, again, John, it's your recommendation. Do you want to speak to that at all?
Yeah, just briefly, I think it's important considering again where we're sitting at, that everybody is totally aware of where we're sitting financially before we're making decisions that could cost millions or hundreds of thousands. So everybody's aware of where we're at and that there's a benefit of what we are doing regardless of our financial position.
Thank you. And do I have a seconder for that recommendation? Seconded by Dan, and we'll now open it up to speak to France.
Frankly, particularly after having had a few meetings and reports from Ms. Nichols here, I support the motion, but I'm a little bit concerned that if it's only a snapshot of the current financial position, that actually could be slightly misleading and create knee-jerk reactions. So I would like to also see the best estimate as year to date at the end of the financial year included in that.
Thank you. I'd also expect the same, and I don't expect that any of what's being proposed here takes away from the full reporting that's provided at the PARS currently. Is there any further? Mayor Tavendale?
Just procedural as well, because I don't think the PAR can request per se what goes onto council agendas. So I think it is that PAR recommends to council that they request of the CE, because the CE owns the agenda per se. And I think we can certainly make recommendations to the CE, and I'm sure the CE would be happy to take up any recommendations we had that we thought was going to help elevate our understanding of where things are at and to really highlight it, but yet just being really clear on what the procedure is around that.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Is there any further discussion on that second recommendation? If not, could I ask all those in favour? Against? Thank you. And again, that's carried, and my apologies for slipping up on that second one. So look, let's go back to the actual report itself. Thank you, Alex and Amanda, for speaking to it. I know that there'll be lots and lots of questions out there. My really basic read of this is that we're spending more than we're earning, and to cover that additional spend that we have been incurring, we have borrowed money to do that. So on page 45, it very clearly articulates that the council's policy is not to debt fund its operating costs, but we have done. So thank you for articulating that so clearly. It's not a comfortable position. I obviously have several other questions, but I want to open it up to the floor for others to discuss. Councillor McKine.
Just a question on page 44, Amanda, where it says borrowings 58.9 million, and yet so how does that work? Is that the net amount as opposed to where we currently stand at the moment?
There's two lines that need to be added together there. So the non-current, the longer term one's 58.9, and just down below on current liabilities, we have 33.155. That's ones that are due to roll over in the next 12 months.
And they sum up to
Typically will, but not
92.
Thank you.
France?
For full disclosure, Amanda I have been corresponding a bit about a couple of things, and I think we didn't quite resolve, as in where is the money going from the grant subsidies and donations? Well, you did answer it, but I'm just not clear in my mind about it. So the way I read is, and I look at year to date, as in what's forecasted for the 30th of June, we are actually short on the grant subsidies and donation about 13.6 million, what was included in the budget for this financial year. then I get somewhat confused because in the information that we have provided to the public and to ourselves for next financial year, 27, we only have in there 10,900,000. So is that 10,900,000 correct, or should some of that money that we are not receiving in this financial year be added in that? And of course, then the whole figure and the situation changes. And picking up on what Mr. Parley said in the beginning, I understand that not all monies that we expected to receive this financial year as parts of grant subsidies and donations, but at least some of it will be received in either next or following year. So yeah, to me, there is a bit of a discrepancy there because we're going out to the public, we've got 10,900,000. Hang on, we're missing 13.6. So something doesn't quite add up to me, for me.
Yep, so our grants for the last 2 years have been significantly higher than they ever have been before for those 3 projects, Kakinoi Bridge, Event Centre and Gallery. So next year's budget is our normal, principally the NZTA funding. So we know our roading program is about $10 million and 57% of that, so about $6 million worth of the 10 million is from NZTA. And then there's other one-off roading projects that we get some extra NZTA income for. And then there is some long outstanding Event Centre sponsorship. For example, the Network Waitaki naming rights, 1.25 is outstanding, and that's going to be paid off over 10 years. So a portion of that will come next year within that 10 million. There is also the Kakinoi Bridge, the second stage, the decommission of the old bridge is expected to occur over the first few months of the next financial year until September. So there'll be some extra funding coming in for the tail end of that project. We aren't 100% sure of the final timing of the Forester Gallery income. We expect some to come, all of that making up that 10 million budgeted for next year. And that budget was set a couple of months ago when we first started talking about this in March as well. So we had lesser certainty about what we'd get before 30 June this year and what will come next financial year. But basically that's how we reach the 10 million next year. It's going to be nowhere near the levels we've seen before.
Thank you. Is that a supplementary?
Just follow up, because I don't think that quite answered my question, as in we have 13.6 million short in what we expected, but only some of that is included in that 10,900,000, or are you being very conservative and say, hey, we know we get these extra funding, grant subsidies and donations, but you're not putting them in the budget because you're not sure when they are going to arrive?
There is an element of that. So we do have to, for accounting wise, we need to consider the certainty of it and the timing, our best guess at that time. But as I said, some of the grandstand, so the outstanding 13 mil that we have right now, there is a couple of million of that, which is going to be over 10 years. So it's going to be a small amount every single year. There is a contingency currently of just under 2 million. And then some grants that are still to hopefully trickle in this financial year to do with the Event Centre. So that 2 million contingency, we haven't factored that into receiving it. We may not need it. And then there's some questions over some other big one-off capital projects and the timing of when they'll be received. So when it's questionable, we haven't put them in.
Thank you. That's the right way to do it. Councillor Hopkins.
Yes, thank you. My iPad's installing an update, so it's gone blank at the moment. Forgive me if I will get a couple of the numbers wrong, but that support for the Event Centre you indicate is 5.28 million short. To what extent is that 5 million our non-rates funded contribution?
The bit that I'm pointing out is just the grant subsidies and donations. So that's nothing to do with council's contributions. That's accounted for separately in these accounts.
So we still haven't identified the source from which that 5 million non-rates contribution is to come, have we?
We did a lot of work about that in the long-term plan. We consulted on various income streams, for example, selling excess property. We're working on that behind the scenes. The council also resolved to put the surplus funds from the RMA reserve last year into that funding pool. So there's various measures that council's working on behind the scenes to come up with that 5 million non-rate pay rates funding.
Right, thank you. I'm going to give.
I had one other, looking really at major expenditure, again on page 46, there's a reference to difficulties with Three Waters projects being undertaken because of a contractor shortage. If we are experiencing a contractor shortage now, how realistic is it for us to add an additional $10 million worth of work at DIA's behest and 11 million of carry forwards in this budget that we are discussing or will be discussing for next year? I would suggest that there are clear budget implications in that sentence that that warrant revisiting the CapEx program.
So, Jim, I think I don't know that that's a question that Amanda can easily answer, but I too, and I think all councillors share the concern that we grow and grow and grow what we're expecting to be able to do each year, and we don't knock it off because it's unachievable right from the beginning. But we've got all of these projects that the DIA are saying that we have to do, so we can't just turn them off. But Amanda or Alex, perhaps you can speak to that quickly.
So I just want to challenge that we just grow and grow and grow, because we didn't do that. That was the position a few years ago, and things just got automatically rolled forward. But we had a position of challenging that. I think we're in a unique place now whereby we have to deliver things because the government is requiring that we deliver things, upgrades, at a time when it's most expensive to do that. And I think that's the difficult conversation. We are looking at what is the feasibility of delivering that, and it's not just to do with contractors, it's to do with our own resources as well. So that plan is being worked on. But yeah, the contractor element is a key part of that if there's not sufficient capacity out there to deliver. But I think we need to be in a position where, because we are required to do that, we have used best endeavours with our resources and allocated our resources efficiently to ensure we've got the best chance of delivering that. But can I assure you that we're going to deliver all that next year? No, I can't at the moment. It is a massive undertaking. I think a lot of the things that are proposed to be rolled forward, it's not that there's nothing happened on them. There is work to progress them, but they haven't started fully yet. But I think I have concerns, and the team are working on what is the feasibility of actually delivering that, given that those are not nice to haves, those are things that we're required to do.
Sorry, and when I said grow, I probably should have said we're rolling things to the next year, which is what we tend to be doing. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you. Thanks, Amanda, through the chair. Just with regards to the grants and donation funding for all these projects, have there been changes to the timelines of when we were expecting these funds to be received, or has that altered since the decisions were made?
So a lot of these projects have been quite long outstanding. There was time spent at the front end that impact on when the project started and various stages were completed and things. So there was no clear schedule about when the income would come in and how it would match the expenditure and things right from the outset. So that's something we've had to keep on touch, like all the same players in the same room monthly, to keep on track of where both the expenditure and the income side. And it's been hard as well. Like there's certain things that we hadn't considered, such as when I set the budget flat throughout the year, and then a lot of donees wanted to wait till after the tax financial year of 31 March for their tax purposes to bring it into the next financial year. It's not something I factored into my budget. So hopefully a lot of those will catch up before 30 June. What was the other point I was going to make? I had a blank. Oh, Kakinui Bridge, NZTA funding. So that is typically the work is performed. We get the invoices from the contractor. We pay that 20th of the next month. We do a reconciliation, send it to NZTA. It may be 2 months before we get the income back for that. So there's always timing differences there. Yes, there's a lot of things that come into play, and it can change throughout. Like we saw there was, initial delays factored in for Kakinui Bridge, and then all of a sudden it was complete ahead of budget and those sorts of things. So it's really hard to marry it up with such big projects and the costs changing for various reasons throughout the project.
Thank you. Mayor Taverner.
Just a quick expansion on the question around the viability of the program in front, and I think there's a elected member sort of hat on that one as well, which is it is an absolute risk we've got of not being able to carry out that level of program, and I think part of that needs to be discussions we have in Wellington because there's a best endeavours, and I think that's what we need to step into through our water services plan, but we also need to have those backstop conversations saying, we are doing what we can to get there, but there's a risk here and we don't want that risk to lie in a financial implication for our community who's already struggling in the financial space around the deliverability of this program as it is. So there's a whole lot of other conversations that are happening at the same time to try and hopefully mitigate the fact that if things aren't going to hit the timeframes and we can't get the right level of staffing, that we're not finding a community that's being penalised as a result.
Thank you. I think that's a really, really important thing to do. And we talking to Wellington is a must do. Councillor Hopkins.
Yeah, well, we are a performance audit and risk committee. Our performance is impaired by the problems that this report identifies to us regarding the availability of contractors. I believe that exposes us to a very substantial risk. And the committee can, in my view, recommend to council that it in turn advises the Department of Internal Affairs that the shortage of or the difficulty of sourcing contractors puts at jeopardy our ability to undertake or complete the $10 million worth of additional work they have required of us next year, and that we therefore request an extended time frame to allow this to be done. I just seriously think this is an issue of quite significant magnitude, well, very significant magnitude.
And I think the discussion here indicates that everybody supports the seriousness of that risk and the concern of that risk. And informally, as the Mayor's just said, that she intends to raise that at a higher level, but I can see some hands on buttons that wish to speak to this more than I. Paul, Alex, which one of you?
Yeah, I just wanted to highlight the risk of that, and I think conversations need to be had, but the risk of it is that we'll get the answer back. Well, you've had years to do this, and previous councils have opted to delay as we're waiting for tomato ROI in terms of affordable solutions and trying to look at what is the most cost-effective way of doing this for our community. We were dealing with what was a changing landscape in terms of the regulation. We were one of those councils that really pushed back on the regulations and said this is not affordable for our community, but that's meant a delay in dealing with our rural water schemes as we sought that more cost-effective solution. But that is the danger you risk. If you push back hard, they'll say you've had years to do it. We've known about the standards that you're required to deliver for years and you haven't done it. And so we're right at the back end of when what the timeframes are for being compliant.
Start.
Yeah, and in addition, so there will be a mechanism to allow council to report and update Department of Internal Affairs on the progress that we are making in delivering the water service delivery plan. So once it is accepted, you are required to provide a quarterly update on your progress on the plan. So we can advise them about at each of those quarterly steps how much progress is being made. The other issue is we've had in the past a very a focus on a 12-month period to basically do everything in relation to a project. We need to move, I suppose, the horizon away from that. So even if all of the money is not spent by the end of the year, there is still a significant amount of work that has been undertaken in sort of the planning, the design, the tendering progress for a lot of these projects. So they'll be well underway, but we wanted to carry forward the amounts. And the same applies for the budgets for the 26-27 year. It needs, not everything may be spent by the end of the year, but there will be significant progress made again in terms of the asset planning, the design and the tendering of those projects in that 12-month period, if those projects are included in the budget.
So just following up on that, if we were saying that $10 million worth of CapEx projects have been deferred into the next financial year, of that $10 million of overall project deferral, how much do you think you could comfortably say had already been spent on the project? So I guess my question is it not $10 million of project that's been deferred? It's $8 million of the $10 million of the project that's been deferred.
No, I think it's still the 10 million has been deferred, but we are in the process of letting multi-year contracts. So the tender will be, be 5 million for this year, but the arrangements will be in place to deliver another $2.5 million in the next year and $2.5 million in the next year. Okay. So because there were the renewal projects in particular, these are scheduled over a number of years, and we've gone out to the market to say, well, what is the most economic way to deliver those? By having that set over a number of years, that allows the get over the initial hump of contractor availability and allows them to deliver in a time frame that's both affordable and deliverable across that multi-year period.
Okay, hang on a minute. Councillor McKine.
Just a quick, does that not leave us so very vulnerable to an overspend further down the track on projects that aren't delivered?
No, I don't see how, because we're basically doing the tendering work. So the tender agrees to the price. You may have some cost fluctuations driven by inflation, but again, we can adjust those contracts as we move through the multi-year periods.
Supplementary.
So what I'm really saying, Paul, is we can budget for it, but when it's actually deliverable, then that ends in that financial year.
Well, that's where we need to start. The budget will be, we need to move from a very strict, it just sits in a 12-month period to, once we have these arrangements in place, making sure the budgets match up to the arrangements that we have in place.
Councillor Hopkins.
Sorry, if this is done, then I stand indicted. All the information we've been given so far to justify the three options with regard to the rate increases indicate a $10 million additional impost required from DIA. You've just said we could do 5 million and then 2.5 and 2.5. Doesn't that take 5 million off the budget item, the budget figure that we've been talking about, and took to the public at the meetings we've just had?
No, I think what Mr. Hope's been trying to explain is there's $10 million worth of work that needs to be done that we haven't been able to do this financial year.
Yes.
We're going to put that $10 million into next financial year, but maybe only 5 of that will get spent next financial year, and maybe 2.5 will be the following, and 2.5 will be the following. But there's still 10 million.
Sorry, it was just round numbers, and that's all I'm saying is that of that 10 million, 5 million is stuff we are going out to the market over multi-year contracts. So.
Chair, the work we haven't done this year is the 11 million carry forwards. The 10 million is additional work that we've been told by DIA we have to do. So that's the explanation we have been given and what we have shared with the public.
And that is correct.
And therefore, if we are only expecting to do 5 million of the $10 million work, surely the budget should be just adjusted accordingly.
Sorry, the 5 million is basically some of the renewal work and other work that we are bundling up into a multi-year contract that is using not only a budget from this year, next year, but also the year after that. So, like a lot of this is like major renewal of pipes in the rural networks. It's like, rather than doing 3 contracts for basically the same thing, we've done 1 contract that covers a 3-year period.
Okay,
You're not comparing apples with
No.
apples, Jim. The 10 million that we're talking about that the DIA has requested that we add in,
Hmm.
that's about 10 different projects.
Yes.
Paul's giving the example of, say, one specific renewal project. That is $10 million over multiple years. So it's not the same 10
No.
million.
okay, look, I'm sorry, Mr. Cook.
Thank you. I understand that there's a big conversation about the dollars, but you're a risk committee as well, so please don't lose sight of the risk of providing non-compliant, unsafe water to the community. Somebody gets sick, this turns into a very different conversation. So please don't lose sight of that.
Absolutely, and Mr. Rendell's presented to us previously on that, and we're aware of those risks. I think everybody here accepts that there is money that has to be spent because of those health and safety risks, and that needs to occur. Sorry, Sven.
Yeah, just to Paul's point there, that does make sense to me. If we were to do that, would we be able to get clarity across the multi-years? So some sort of report saying that we've got this project and it's split across these years and this is how it's going, just so that we can keep a tab over multiple years. That would probably be the only thing I could see that would potentially make it more difficult.
Yeah, and that's certainly a report that we're working on, because we recognize, we need to make it more transparent at which stage the contracts are at and the amount of work being done, because sort of almost, there's an awful lot of work that has to be done to get it out into the market, to get it well designed, to actually deliver the results that we're expecting and achieving the outcomes. So just, as Roger said, just focusing on when the dollars are spent doesn't really give the full picture of where we are in terms of meeting our compliance regulations.
Okay, look, I have lots more questions, but I can address those outside of here. I am very conscious of time, and we've got a Treasury report and a public excluded section to get through before we wrap this up. So could I ask somebody please move that we accept the financial report? Moved by Councillor McKone, seconded by Councillor Lewis. All those in favour? Against? Thank you, and that's carried, and we'll move on now to agenda item 5.5, the Treasury report. And again, who would like to open this to speak to it?
Nichols.
Amanda?
Okay, so this is the standard Treasury update that you get each quarter. So this is again for the quarter ended 31 March, the first 9 months of the year, how we're looking. In terms of debt, we are sitting at around 91 million. There's a list of our investment side of things. We have quite a bit of cash in the bank right now that should see us over to 30 June. We also are expecting our next round of quarterly rates instalment by the 25th of this month. In terms of interest, we are earning a higher rate, effective interest rate of 3.47 versus our effective interest rate that we're paying to LGFA is 2.81. And then there is the detailed list of our investments with loans and advances to other entities. Just to note there'll be a couple that I'll be bringing to the June council meeting. Some would like to make changes to their contractual arrangements and balances due before 30 June this year. So I'll bring that to council then.
Thank you, and I'll open up to the floor for questions. Councillor McKone.
I just have a question relating to page 57. The third line down on policy compliance is funding maturity profile within the policy control limits. It says no and red flag. Can we have a bit more information on that? And on the other second part of that, on the right hand side of it, there's boxes and it says liquidity ratio 110.95%. And that must be over 110. Is that a concern?
Great spotting. So I have addressed those in the report page 53. So in terms of the Bangkok quarterly dashboard, it is something I've touched on previously. I'll start with the second one you've mentioned, the liquidity ratio. So it is slightly over the threshold at 31 March. We've since resolved that by increasing our CAL facility, which is our short-term borrowing with the BNZ. It was previously 6 mil, we've increased it to 10 mil. So basically this threshold is there to ensure that we have some liquid cash or investments available 10% higher than our holding in debt. And so by having that CAL facility at 10 million now, we satisfy that.
Sorry, Amanda, and just to support you on that, that doesn't mean that we've borrowed another $4 million.
Yeah,
It just means we've increased our ability to be able to borrow.
Yeah, so that's the one where I touch into, say for the likes of, I get to the 20th of May this month and need to pay our creditors, which are usually around 6 or 7 million. And if we didn't have that cash on hand to pay that, I would pay that using drawing down on the CAL facility. And then 5 days later, when we get the bulk of our rates revenue in for that quarter, that would pay that off. So it would just be really short-term borrowing. We don't want to go to LGFA for any longer-term borrowing for that sort of thing. In terms of the loan funding maturity profile, that's also mentioned on that page. So that was just, so we like to have thresholds and have our loan maturity spread over even periods. It was really, really high this financial year. And that was mainly because we had quite a lot of uncertainty about our Three Waters debt. So that's around $50 million worth of our debt. I had a lot of that looking to expire this year and in the 27 financial year because we weren't sure who was going to own that debt after that time. And now that we've got more certainty and we have avenues for that debt to be there's lots of different ways that we can get that over or covered by Southern Waters Limited from 1 July 27. So we've just gone ahead and rolled a few for longer term during this month.
Thank you. France.
Very quick question.
Sorry, it was
Oh, sorry,
and then we'll go to you, Jim.
Page 53, the bottom table. Me and my trusted friend Excel, I think that comes to 93.9. But the question I actually have is there's a net repayments of 25 million. Can that be expanded on as in what loans have actually been paid out or perhaps percentage of? And just to explain why I see, say, the first one, 2021, the pipeline from Oamaru all the way to Hamden, and being connected to that, I'd really like to get some idea as in how far that has been paid off. And of course, this also goes into the transfer of all the assets and everything that goes with it to Southern Waters.
Thank you. That's reminded me, I was asked at the last PAR to provide a detailed listing of all of the loans that we hold for every single asset that we've brought for all of time and loan funded against. I'm working on that behind the scenes. I'll have detailed information about the repayments and interest and everything. It's just not ready to present at this meeting, but I'll bring it to the next quarterly update. And that'll be nice because it'll be for the 30 June full year as well. And sorry about the miscalculation for that bottom table.
Well spotted, France. Thank you. I also note on page 53, Amanda, where we talk about the $91 million of borrowing and that there'll be a detailed listing of outstanding loans provided in the next update. I'm interested in the section where we talk about the borrowing for digital costs. And I note earlier that we're well underspent in terms of our IT projects. So I would be interested to see that further broken down. Councillor Hopkins.
Just very quickly, on page 53 as well, in terms of the total borrowings of 91 million, you've got 17 mil related to property. I'm presuming most of that's sports and event centre. Is that the right presumption, or are there other property expenses that explain that 17 million?
I can't recall. I don't think the Network Event Centre is in there. I think that's the Parks and Recreation.
But as per, Amanda, as per your
numbers wise, it must be there.
But as per your comment, we'll be getting a report on that at the next PAR meeting, so we'll be able to look at that in some more detail. Any further questions on the Treasury report?
Probably a silly one, but page 52, just the double entries of Project Reclaim. Is that? Can you remind me the two figures are separately?
2024, 2025.
Yeah, so that was a multi-year project. There was some borrowing in each of those years for that.
That would have come up well under that budget though, would it? So did the other money we got back, how'd that work for that project?
Sorry, that's not, those numbers there aren't just Project Reclaim. It is for the capital programme and Project Reclaim. It's highlighting that Project Reclaim was in both of those years. So that will be covering water investments as well.
No, it wasn't silly. There's no silly questions. No silly questions at par. But you'll move that we receive the Treasury report, Councillor Hopkins. Thank you. Seconded by Franz. All those in favour? Against? Thank you. That's carried. I am very conscious of time, but it was an important discussion for us to have. I can either move to public excluded now and try and knock it out in 5 minutes. You'd like that rather than defer it. Okay, could I ask somebody please move that we go to public excluded? Moved by Councillor McCone, seconded by Sven. All those in favour? Against? Thank you, that's carried. And we'll now thank everybody online for joining us today. And we'll move to public excluded. Thank you.